Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and kick things off since it's now 3 o'clock to maximize our time for this session. So welcome to the SAS Viya Transition Interactive Session. To view previous training sessions, you can visit that site below. And then for more information about upcoming events, dates, and topics, you can visit the one listed second there. And then Laura's also going to be dropping those in the chat, so you don't have to look and copy all of those characters and those links. So before we kick things off and I hand things over to Tim today, we're just going to go through a couple of administrative items. This session's meant to be collaborative and interactive. We are going to be using Zoom breakout rooms throughout the session, and a CCSQ DNA team member will be available in each room if you have questions there and for support. If you have questions throughout our session, feel free to ask them verbally or use the raise hand feature. And then if you have trouble joining a breakout room, please just write us a message in the Zoom chat, and Laura and I can assist you with that. And then portions of this meeting are going to be recorded. So this first portion where Tim kicks things off, and then our wrap up will both be recorded and posted to the CCSQ DNA portal. And then at the end, we will be administering a survey. So please give us your feedback there so we can continue to improve and make sure our sessions and offerings are beneficial. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing and pass things over to Tim.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. Hi, everyone. My name is Tim. I'm a senior data scientist here on the user services team. I'm still pretty new. I've only been here about 3 months. So first, thank you for joining. Welcome to the first session with me. I'll be doing our interactive session today. I'm also doing a lunch and learn tomorrow. So if you're an R enthusiast like me, please be sure to join that. I'll start sharing my screen and we can get right to it. Just got to share the right one. This one. Okay. So this is our third interactive session. Don't worry if you missed the prequels, it's only a spiritual successor. This is the interactive session on Spark with R in Databricks. So after this lesson, you'll be able to understand the relationship and difference between R, Spark, and SQL, and how they play nice together and sometimes how they don't play nice together. And then we're going to learn how to do the following dplyr-esque commands in SparklyR. So if you're familiar with R at all, hopefully you're familiar with dplyr or the tidyverse. If you are, this is going to be really, really familiar to you. All of the functions you know and love in dplyr are available in SparklyR, kind of like you don't even know you're using a different thing. So we'll do all of that together. And of course, remember, this session is interactive. Ask me questions. Ask your peers questions in breakout rooms. Hop from room to room. There's going to be different rooms for different problems. And also, in the meantime, I want to gauge you all kind of where you are in your SAS transition. So let me bring up the participant list. Please use the emojis in the Slack. Should probably be like at the bottom of this window. And I'll also have the chat open if you want to use words instead of pictures. Would you please post a link to the notebook? I will post a link to the notebook right now. Oh, thank you, Oren. Never mind. Oren already did it for me. So where are you in your SAS transition? Give me a clapping hands. If you're fluent in Databricks, this is old news for you. Give me a heart if you're comfortable in Databricks, but you still got some more to learn. A thumbs up if you've been using it, but you want to get to be a lot better. Or a ta-da emoji if you're very new to this, which is A-okay, of course. Lots of hearts and thumbs ups. A hand up. Is that a question or supposed to be a clapping hand?
Frankly, I can't find the emojis.
Oh, okay. I think it's like next to where the hand raises, but my screen's probably different because I'm sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? How do you feel about R? I know that R is sometimes the forgotten language when it comes to working in Databricks. Maybe you're a Python person, but give me a heart if you're like me, if you love R and it's your main language. A thumbs up if you're R curious, but you're really a Pythonista at heart. The tada emoji if you're just trying to level up a little bit. Clap for me if you're really mostly SQL and you're trying to level up your programming game. And share in the chat kind of where you are. It's a big variety of people who are R users. Lots of thumbs ups and tadas. Okay. I think I saw a heart or two. Okay, cool. Great. So I have shared, or Oren has shared, the link for you, but you, of course, cannot use my notebook. This one's mine. So we need to get started with your own version of this notebook, which involves cloning. So in order to do this, please clone this notebook. And to do that, you must go to File. So if you'd like to kind of watch me, I'm going to do it myself because I have to. So I'm going to go to File. There's a button that says Clone. And then you get a window like this when you click Clone. You get to name the notebook. I'm going to just leave that clone in front so that I know that I'm working on a clone and not the original. And where am I going to clone it to? It's probably your user folder to start. So I'm going to change that. Or, well, for me, it's not. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to go to my user folder. Yeah. So workspace users and then my name. Save it in somewhere you're allowed to save it, which is probably your users folder. So under workspace, users, and then your name. I'm going to clone it. And I think we are on my clone now. Cool. So I've got two more things before we get started. The first is a note on what library we are using today. So if you've been using R with Spark, you might not actually know that you have an option. So there are two Spark libraries in R. There is Sparkly R and Spark R. I know, not the most different names. We have to pick one. So here's the difference. Spark R is maintained by Apache, the same people that maintain Spark. And it's built into Databricks. So you might think that makes it the best choice. It is unfortunately deprecated. Apache is like, we're not doing this anymore. Spark R was fine for a little bit, but it's over. So Spark R is actually going away. So that leaves us with Sparkly R. Sparkly R is better maintained. It's more compatible with the R ecosystem, and it's endorsed by Apache. So we're going to use Sparkly R. What that does mean is that we have one more little step of overhead to get us working, and we actually have to import Sparkly R because it's not there by default. So now our full agenda. I'm going to do a quick demo to get us started. And then I'm going to send you all into breakout rooms so you can work solo in groups with somebody else, with the help of another one of us on the user services team. You don't have to go into a breakout room. You can hang out here in the main room with me and ask me questions too. But after about 30 minutes or so, we're going to come back into the main room and I'm going to walk through a few select problems. The first couple, and then I think the last one is what I'm going to do. So if you are just getting up and running with a notebook, try and run this cell. You might have to connect to a resource first, like I am. Automatically connected to my most recent. Okay, cool. If you've never used R before like this, what you have on my screen here is correct. I know there's a lot of check marks and X's, but this is actually correct. So attaching core tidyverse packages, and then we are attaching package Sparkly R. So if you see something like this, you are good to go. If you are not a frequent user of Databricks, it might take a little bit longer for you. It might actually take a couple minutes, but eventually you should get this. If you're curious and you want to make sure it's a Databricks issue or versus a Sparkly R issue, you can give a 1+1. Obviously, the answer is 2, but this will test to see if you're actually connected to your cluster to see if it's running. Okay, So let's get started with a really quick demo here. The first thing we got to do is we got to read in some data sets. I have provided for you already the code to read in data sets. We have them stored in the public data SQL schema. So the first step is we need to actually create a Spark connection. This is because we're using sparklyr instead of sparkr. We actually have to create our own connection to the Spark cluster. And then using that connection to the Spark cluster, we're going to use the SQL function. So the SQL function says, using this Spark cluster, run this query. So I just have a simple select all query here, and this will get us some data on employees, departments at that company, and some revenue over time at this company. You'll see in sparklyr that there are a lot of functions that begin with SDF. I think it's sparklyr defined function or something like that. They're just named with an SDF in front, so they don't conflict with any functions that are already built into the tidyverse or R. So this is sparklyr's SQL function. So I'm going to run this. There's a display function built in. So if you ever want to see what's going on, you can always display a data frame. So here are our employees. So we've got an employee ID, an employee name, a manager ID, department ID, their job title, their salary, and what state they live in. Looks to be a lot of missings though. And now let's do our first question before I send you off. Exercise 1 is display the employees data frame rows where the manager ID is 11. So give me all of the employees that have manager ID 11, whoever that is. So I'm going to take the employees table, and I'm going to write the pipe operator, that is % greater than %. If you're not familiar with the tidyverse, this is basically saying, and then do this, right? So take the employees data frame and then do the next thing. The next thing is going to be the filter function. I want to filter all employees that have manager ID of 11, the double equals to test equality here. I'm going to run that, and I think I'll get some boring looking output. If you don't like the boring looking output, sorry, you can pipe that again into the display function. Ooh, now I have a typo. I'm at manager ID 11, sorry. All right, so we have 2 employees that report to manager 11. They are Sophia and Benjamin. Okay, there are 8 total exercises here, so there are 7 remaining exercises. There are going to be some breakout rooms. My colleagues will be joining those breakout rooms to help you out. And yeah. Oh, one more thing. I want to show you something really cool. So if you just take your answer here and define it as a new function, I'll call it exercise 1. You can actually look at the reverse engineered SQL query that got you here. So you type show query of the result here. And if you ever want to go backwards, you can say, cool, I wrote this in R and now I want to know the SQL query that would have gotten me here. It'll actually recreate it for you. It has to make up like a temporary table name, but it is select star from whatever where manager ID is 11. I think that's a really cool feature of Spark, an underused one. Okay, so breakout rooms. I don't know if they're open yet. I can't see in my view.
I just opened them.
Okay, thank you so much. Sounds like the breakout rooms have just been opened. Please feel free to join them. I'm going to stick around here. I'm going to leave my screen kind of up here so that people joining a little bit later can reorient themselves. And feel free to talk to me out here in the main room or to any of my colleagues in any of the breakout rooms. We will be back in 30 minutes. So I have 3:14 Eastern time. We can come back at 3:44.
And Tim, I just wanted to call out that in cell number 2 right here that you have showing that the order of the libraries makes a huge difference because you'll see that they're going to mask other functions. And we've had help desk tickets in the past where, sometimes these things are occurring and they're not aware of it. So you do want to call in tidyverse first and then sparkly R.
Also, one of the things I've used as a debugging technique because of masking is since you can invoke something like this.
With colon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
For
the trick
example,
is,
dplyr, I
Yeah.
found that I always write my dplyr command starting with dplyr : :
that's a really good habit,
'Cause
but there's actually an even deeper problem here.
because
And
there's a lot of stuff in dplyr.
Yeah, but there's an even deeper problem, and it's that it's actually the per library. The source code of the per library doesn't use the colon. It's an admitted mistake of the author. He posted about it on GitHub. So if you import these in the wrong order, the sparklyr function just will not work at all. But yeah, colon is a very good habit to be in, even though it's more typing.
I just had a general question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Now that
Oh, okay, recording started. I plan on going through exercises 2, 3, 4, and probably the last one, because the last one kind of encompasses a whole bunch of things. So exercise 2 is on creating a new column. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new column called salary band. That is band A if your salary is 150 or higher, and B otherwise. So we're going to use, I believe, the employee table, which has salary. And we're going to create a new column. To create a new column, we use the mutate function. So mutate, I'm very picky with my indentation. So I like to make things like this. I kind of like to start out the template of what I'm doing before I start typing inside. So we're going to create a new column called salary band. And I basically want an if statement, right? If the salary is above 150, what did I say? A for above 150 and B otherwise. The function for this in R is if else. So salary 0, 0, 0, 0, A, otherwise B. And that's that, right? If it's above 150, A, otherwise B. And if we look, another trick I like to do is sometimes I like to call head, just so my output's not super long. So A, maybe we can look at tail also. I guess there's no tail in sparklyr. Today I learned. We go to the bottom, you can see that there are some people in band B. What about the bonus? So the bonus is instead of 2 salary bands A and B, create 4. So what you could do is you could do nested if else's, right? If else this, then A, otherwise if else, then another statement, and so on. And I know depending on the language you're used to, that might unfortunately be the best way to do this. But thankfully in sparklyr, there's a much easier way to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy and paste this. I'll comment this out because we're going to work on a new one here. And instead of if else, we are going to use case when. And case when works a lot like if else, but instead of one condition, you can create as many conditions as you want. So what did I say? If it's above 180, you're in band A. So salary 180. And the then here is actually a tilde. So that's a tilde, then A. And then let's say 150 B. Then 125 C. And then as a default case, you can put something that's always true, such as true. So this is kind of like the way you can say else or otherwise. If I run this and we scroll over, you can scroll down and you can indeed see a good mix of A, B, C's, and D's. I'll leave this on the screen for another second here. And sorry, my cat thinks it's dinner time, but it is only 4 o'clock. So for problem 3, we're going to aggregate this. So I'm actually going to take my answer to part 2 and move it down to part 3. Okay, so aggregate the pay bands. So using the new pay band column we made in exercise 2, or sorry, salary band. I think I named it wrong. We're going to use the group by function to count up how many employees exist in each pay band. And then as a bonus, we're going to print out some other statistics. And then I also requested that the pay bands should be sorted in alphabetical order because that is not the default when you use a group by. So in my opinion, as somebody who is fluent in all R, Python, and SQL, the way R does group bys is just so good. It is like the reason to be using R for this kind of stuff. The group by and summarize mechanic here is just so much simpler and nicer than it is in PySpark and in SQL. So if you've never seen this before, I hope you agree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say group by, and I'm going to group by salary band. And it looks like in my notes I did call it pay band, but it's okay. And then we're going to summarize. And I'll leave a big blank here. And then I'm going to have an optional ungroup. The ungroup is optional, but it's also a really good habit to be in, because if you're going to do additional logic after a group by statement, you might still be working with what we call a grouped by data frame. And oftentimes that's not really what you want to be doing. So it's just a good habit to ungroup, but in this case, it's not actually required. Okay. So I asked for the count of the people within each of these categories. So I'm going to create a column called count. And there's a special function that's just called n, which represents the count. All right. So if you're unfamiliar with this kind of logic, basically what I've done here is inside the summarize function, I can just put whatever summary I want. So whatever summary statistics I want. So counting up is a summary statistic, but also so is something like this. Mean salary, right? It's an aggregation. So I can also have mean salary in here too. So this is now me getting into the bonus solution here. The bonus requested includes some other pay statistics. So I'll include maybe min and max. Min salary, max sal. And there I've got some additional things going on. And then lastly, I wanted to sort by the salary band. So the sort by or order by function in sparklyr is called arrange. That's an artifact from dplyr. Obviously, I think they should call it order by to kind of sound like SQL, but here we are. It's called arrange. Now, if you're still new to distributed computing, I'm going to tell you something that's a little bit controversial, which is don't sort stuff. Sorting your data set is a what we call a wide operation. It's not something that Spark really, really likes to do. If you want to sort something, you should do it when your data set is small enough, like after an aggregation. So I have aggregated my table down to only 4 rows. This is small enough where sorting the data frame is not a big deal. But remember, if you had like, 10 million rows, sorting your data set is an expensive operation. All right. Any questions about anything I've talked about so far? Okay, I'll do exercise 4 quickly because I do want to do the last one. Exercise 4 is on merging. So I want to merge the department
Tim, if you
name.
want to do the last
Yes.
one, you might want to do it now because don't forget we need a few minutes for the survey, and you're at 3:54.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so let's do exercise 8, which is actually fine because exercise 8 contains exercise 4 now that I'm looking at it. So thank you, Oren. I'm going to do exactly that. We're going to do the grand finale. So for each department, display the employees, their salaries, their managers, their department name, and total revenue for that department in millions. The result should be sorted by employee ID, but employee ID should not be included in the result. And your output should have human readable column names. So I'm sorry for the kind of rapid fire solution here, but I am reminded that I do want to give you time to answer the survey. So one thing that I notice here, and this is something that later on you might have known through guess and check, but I'm going a little bit faster here, is that I actually want to create a sub data frame to work with here on the total revenue for each department. So the revenue table I made has 3 columns: the date, the department ID, and the revenue. So the total revenue would be the sum of the revenue by department. So I'm going to group by the department ID. I'm going to do a summarize, leave some space, ungroup. And the summary is I want the total revenue. So I'm going to call this total revenue, sum of revenue. That's the total revenue by department. And in here, I actually requested it in millions. So in millions, just going to divide by 1,000,000. And because I don't like so many decimals, I'm actually also going to round to 2 decimal points. Not necessary, but it's a little bit cleaner this way. Did it run? Nope, never mind. Okay, here. All right, cool. So this is something I'm going to merge on later. So I'm actually going to save this as a smaller data frame called total revenue. And now I'm going to answer the wider question. I'm going to use the employees data frame, and I'm going to merge on a bunch of stuff. I'm going to merge on the total revenue by department, the manager names, and what else did I request? The department names. So that is actually exercise 4 built right into this. So to join, I'm going to left join on my new table. And then I'm going to say by what? By the department ID. So it's joined on. You can verify, there it is. What else do I want? I want the department names. And here was a trick. I gave a hint as part of exercise 4 that the department ID is actually spelled with capital letters in the other table, and R has everything case sensitive. So this might have given you some issues if you were working through it on your own. There was a capital D and a capital I. All right, so there's the department name attached on here. And then I want to merge on the manager name. So this was a tricky one because it's a self merge. I'm taking the employee data set, but formatted a little bit differently. So the trick I did here was I actually wanted to create a subquery inside the join where I'm only going to merge on exactly what I want. So from the employee table, I'm going to take the employee ID, but I'm going to rename it to be manager ID. And then I'm going to take the employee name, but I'm actually going to rename it to be the manager name. And then I'm going to merge it on manager ID. So that way, this new employee data set filtered in a very specific way is brought on as the manager name on the right here. And after this is just the visual stuff. So I asked you to arrange or sort the data set by employee ID. Like that for now. So we are sorted by employee ID. And then I said, and then give everything a pretty output. Include only what you want and give everything a pretty name. So what I mean by that is capital letters, no underscores. In my experience, people who are not programmers hate looking at computer science-y looking variable names. So what we're going to do is at the very end here, we're going to make one big select statement. That kind of serves as the finishing touch so that everything looks clean on the other end. So I'm just going to be copying off my notes here. If I was doing this on my own, this obviously would have taken a lot longer, but employee name, and you know what? It is 3:59, so I apologize for going long, but I'm going to copy and paste everything in here. Apologies. If you want spaces in your column names, you have to surround the variable name by backticks. And there, very nice, pretty output. I'll leave the screen here for a moment. Again, thank you so much for joining. This was the interactive session on Spark with R. I hope you learned a lot. I certainly learned a lot making this because the last time I used Spark in R, I had to use Spark R. So readjusting everything for the new library was fun and new for me, and I hope it was for you too. There is a survey at the end of this, which somebody will now tell you about, I think. So I'll pass it off to whoever that is.
It's me. Thank you, Tim.
Sure thing.
So at this point, we're going to just administer a quick survey. You can feel free to drop. I know we are at time right now. As soon as you submit your survey, just continuing to give us feedback and how we can improve our offering. So I'm going to go ahead and start that now. Okay, that should be up on your screen. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Tim for your instruction today, and we hope to see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. See ya.